Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to the Think Big with Danan and Qasim. Today, our guest is Danan. Danan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Qasim. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So then can you please let us know where you live and what you do?
Sure. So I'm in Tampa, Florida, and I do quite a few things. So I've got an e-commerce podcast, mostly for Amazon sellers. I've got a company that helps Amazon sellers remove negative product reviews and monitor their products. I've got a supplement sales company that's all on Amazon. I've got an adventure YouTube channel and group of motorcycle adventure people, as well as 4x4 adventure people. And then pretty soon I'll have a podcast there as well. We've done a couple of live streams, but we're recording our first episode like in the next week or so. And then I am also in the throes of starting a third part podcast with my wife called Sippy Cups and Startups. And that one is actually similar to this, to target entrepreneurs who are also parents, and to cover, just generally like, what are the struggles of that? What do you go through? And so anyhow, that's the short version.
That's great. So can you guide me a little bit? Like, what was the biggest piece of inspiration behind? Because you are doing a lot, and I'm not sure how you started and why you started. What is the biggest why?
Okay, so this is going to be an interesting one. So I crashed into entrepreneurship, and I mean that both figuratively and literally. So my journey starting to becoming an entrepreneur, I actually got hit by a school bus on my motorcycle while driving to work, and it nearly killed me. I broke a whole bunch of body parts, both internal and bones and stuff like that. And I was a traveling salesman at the time. And I thought, okay, well, at this time I'm in the hospital on morphine. I thought I'd be back to work in 4 weeks, but it was actually a year before I could walk properly again. And so I lost my job. I got let go from the company because obviously I couldn't show up to do the job. When I could show up, they had taken my position away from the company and didn't give it back to me. I went, okay, well, you know what? I had some experience, quite a bit of experience in the past with building websites and doing local search marketing and stuff like that. So I threw myself back into that and went, the only way that I'm going to make money is on the internet. I'm stuck in a wheelchair right now. If I wasn't on the wheelchair, I was on a cane, and I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't going to be moving boxes around and setting up displays like I was in the past. So I threw myself into doing e-com related, or, this is 15, what is this? Yeah, this is 15 years ago at this point, almost exactly, as a matter of fact. I think April 10th 2010 is when I got in my accident. So this is about 15 years ago when remote working was not a thing. And that's what I basically started was I have to be able to remotely work. And so I knew that e-commerce and phones and email were the way that it was going to happen. And so I started by outsourcing my sales skills to the company that I was working with in the past. And then a buddy of mine who worked for a sister company that I worked for in the past said, hey, I just got my supplement on Amazon. I was like, wait, what? You don't have to be GE and have a think tank and patents and inventions? Like, I'm in. How do I do that? I want to sell the supplement too. It's like, yeah, man, I'll sell it to you for $10 or whatever it is. And we sold it for 30. I was like, oh my God, profit. So we started that. And actually we were on the verge of medical bankruptcy. We were one payment away from being late on mortgage, my vehicle. We sold everything. We sold what was left of my motorcycle for parts. I sold all my tools. I sold my dirt bike. We sold everything to make bills. And at this time, luckily, we didn't yet have medical payments. But, well, they were due, but we weren't making them. And we had someone helping to negotiate them down and stuff like that. Anyhow, that's kind of the longer story into how I crashed into entrepreneurship. And so we've had a lot of ups and downs, but yeah, that's the shortened version. I went a little long there.
That's an interesting story, in fact, and most encouraging story I have heard today. In fact, when you have some solid reason behind starting something, this is foundational brick, and this is going to be the whole building of your business. Like this biggest why or this biggest inspiration. And I believe in your case, you took really good decisions, and you were not despair, you were not disappointed, you were more towards finding the solution. So any entrepreneur, yeah.
Qasim, I was all of those things, but I was also had to find a solution.
Yeah, if you are not finding the solution, then major thing is, even if you are disappointed and inspired, if you are looking for some solutions, it means you are doing some struggle. You want to do something. Like if you have this current, then you can be an entrepreneur. Otherwise, I think this is one of the secret sauce of an entrepreneur.
I would agree.
To be ready, to be an explorer, to be someone who have some energy inside, who have some bug in it.
Yeah, you have to be willing to have the possibility of discomfort.
Yeah.
Well, not possibility, probability of discomfort, the possibility of failure. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with the stress of, am I going to make it? In my case at that time, it didn't matter. It was do or die. I either was going to financially fail, and go bankrupt and lose my house and lose my vehicle and, have to, move back in with my parents, which wasn't going to happen. Like my wife and I were scheduled to get married at this point in 5 months. And it didn't really matter. And from that, I think, Qasim, you said you were going to ask me one piece of advice I could give anyone or something so after everything that my wife and I went through, my then fiance, but my wife, we've been together for 20 years at this point. So we made a motto for us, for our family. And that was, we always make it go right. We don't know how, we don't know what. So just to to drive this home, you always make it go right. It doesn't matter. Always make it go right. Somehow come on top of the situation that you're in. If nothing else, the situation that you're in, what you're going through, if you could pull yourself mentally out of whatever crap you're in right now, use that as a learning lesson for the future, not to do that again. It's like getting yourself into debt, right? Don't do that. We've all done this. I've done this several times over where I spend money I don't have. Well, guess what? It sucks having to pay that back, especially if it's credit cards. Because in America, credit cards are just the financial way of life. I found out that's not actually the case worldwide. A lot of people still use cash, but in America, we use credit cards. And so we've gotten ourselves into credit card debt before, and it sucks getting out of that because they charge you exponential amounts of money. You spend 10 grand. All right, cool. It costs you 22,000 to get out of it, So use that as a lesson. We're like, I've got to pay these bills. Okay, well, first of all, you did that to yourself, right? Or it doesn't really matter what it is. You're in some situation that's non-optimum. Use it as a lesson, learn from it. Don't do it again. Don't do the actions that got you in that spot. Or alternatively, it can just be part of the journey to success too, because you do go through different conditions or different situations as you're moving from something that didn't exist before into a point of affluence. It's not, hey, nobody knows what I do. Hey, I'm super affluent and successful. There are points in between, and you have to recognize that and take appropriate action along the way to get to the affluence point.
Exactly. So, Danan, can you share, you already shared many challenges. In fact, I will try to get more out of it. So, can you share one challenge with us that you think was more interesting? Obviously, we heard your story, which was full of challenges. Every day, there was a new challenge for you. But if you can share one most interesting or the biggest challenge with us.
This is something that I continually struggle with. And I think that probably every entrepreneur does, especially if, I don't say this demeaningly, but entrepreneurs, right? Someone that's just testing out being an entrepreneur, that's not a serial entrepreneur yet. You have to learn to persist. Struggle is part of the journey, and anything worth doing in life has some form of struggle attached to it. And if it doesn't, might not be worth doing because anyhow, I'd say that the struggle that I have is persistence. And that's probably the most important thing, is persistence down a given course to a goal.
This is how you were able to cope up.
So that other one is getting comfortable with discomfort and know it's just part of it as well. Being comfortable with discomfort and stress. It's going to be there.
Awesome.
Just get over it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, awesome. So let's change the topic a little bit. Let's talk about the marketing. Marketing is one of the essential part of any business. So do your business need marketing? And if you need marketing, how you are doing this? Like you are relying on the digital marketing or some offline marketing? Or mix and match?
Yeah. So I had a master plan a bit. I've spent the last 5 years or more building a network inside of the Amazon space and almost exclusively the Amazon space. And so the way that I market my business is by leveraging the network that I have. So by having my own podcast and my own email list and having built my LinkedIn profile to a ton of e-com sellers, I have value to other people because I've got an audience, right? So while simultaneously building a network of my peers in the space, I also have been building my personal brand as an expert in the space, not just with my peers, but just in general. Now, one mistake that I didn't do that I should have been doing the whole way is producing content for the end user, for the Amazon seller. It's something I'm changing and fixing right now. But essentially what I did is I created a network, made them my friends. I said, hey, can you help me launch my business? And they said, yeah, sure. So that's one way of doing it. The other way that I do is by getting on to podcasts, featured in newsletters, social media posts, live streams, and webinars. So it's basically all digital. I don't even run Google ads right now. My website is not SEO optimized. I know how to do it. It's just a time factor for me. And I show up to trade shows. That's another thing. Your audience is at trade shows, and there's darn near a trade show for anything. You know, if you sell, I don't know, video game stuff, well, there's a trade show for that. If you're into technology, there's a trade show for that. Medical, there's a trade show for that. So, that's another place where you can go and start creating your own network. And that's what I do.
Well, that's good. That's good. So then can you guide us about your success, like how you define your success and the success of your business?
So, okay, good questions. Those have changed over time. When I was in a wheelchair with broken bones in extreme pain, blah, 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 my first success was, can I pay my bills? And so when we started selling supplements on Amazon, I remember this day extremely well. We sold 63 units in 1 month. That rendered $500 of profit for the month. And with the other money that I was making, it was enough to make the car payment. And so my car would not be repossessed. Now, little did I know this would have been the first car payment that I missed. It wouldn't have been repossessed at that time already, but I didn't know that at the time. And so that was the mortgage in the car, and we had food cover. I was on food stamps, by the way, at this time. This was the lowest I've ever been.
So how you define your success and how you define the success of your business now?
Thank you. Yeah, that's right. So that was my definition of success at that time was don't go bankrupt, right? Yeah. Then my definition of success was get debt free. All medical bills. I had 173,000 in hospital bills and then another 40 something thousand in specialists outside of the hospital. So a little over $200,000 in medical debt. And so my next goal was be debt free. And then my next goal after that was be able to produce an income consistently that paid for all the bills. My next goal after that was produce recurring income that paid for all the bills. And so my next goal after that is produce recurring revenue that pays the bills, plus produces income that I can use for investments to produce more recurring income. And once I've attained that goal, then I want to produce enough income, recurring income, that I am beginning to create generational wealth for my children. But there's a term here in America called trust fund babies, where you have these shitty little kids that their parents, bless them, they've taken care of their family, they've done a great job. But then you have these kids that have no game and no goals in life because everything is handed to them on a silver spoon. That's not what I'll be creating. I'm not going to create trust fund babies. So my children, their children after them, they'll have to produce in order to receive the income and receive access to the assets that are created by my wife and I, so that we don't have these kids that are just a burden to society because they can, get a nice car and go out clubbing and throw $100 bills around. If I create that, then I've failed. And I'd rather not create generational wealth than create head little kids. So my business and my personal, that's mostly my business that funnels into my personal. My personal at this point is a big part of it is health, because without my health, it really sucks to be alive when you're living in extreme pain and discomfort. And so that would be my personal goal. And that's something that I'm working on, is to be in good enough shape that I can chase after my kids. Like one day I'll have grandkids. I've got 3 kids now. One day I'll have grandkids. I have to be in good enough shape to be able to chase after grandkids. So that's a big personal goal for me, is be healthy enough. And because I experience pain every day, I'm in daily pain. And the only way to mitigate that is through an appropriate diet and regular exercise and trying to structurally fix what I've broken. Because I've got scoliosis now. I actually bashed my spine over and broke my hips, and my body's a little bit on crooked now. So if you look at me, you wouldn't realize it, but my head's on sideways a little bit. My one shoulder's up that I bashed up, and my spine's bashed over in one side. And so that's of critical importance to me.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, Danan, it was really nice talking to you. At the end, can you please let our viewers know how they can avail your services and how they can reach you?
Sure. I would say that the best way to find me is on LinkedIn. There's not many Danans on there. It's Danan Coleman on LinkedIn. If you're an adventurous type, it's Adventure with Danan on YouTube. You'll find me there. If you want to listen to the Ecom podcast, it's the Ecom Growth Show. There's 2 of them. One of them has been retired, which is why I used that name, because I loved it. But mine is, you can sell from Qasim's in my color profile. With purple is our color. But yeah, if you want to reach out to me directly, LinkedIn's the way to go.
Awesome. Well, Danan, thank you. Thanks for joining us today. I really enjoyed the conversation. I'm happy you were able to cop up and you're still doing good. So best of luck.
Yeah. Thanks, Qasim. Thanks for having me on.